Hi, I'm Kyle, and on this episode of the MWA podcast, Sean, Brian, and I are asking Andrew Klein the 5 questions. If you haven't already, be sure to check out his interview on episode 545. So welcome back to the show, Andy.
Thanks for having me.
Well, fantastic. Well, before we get into the 5 questions, we want to dip our toes in the woodworking news. So first off, Fielder has introduced a new joiner planer. It's under their hammer line, and it's called the A226. And, it's a new joiner planer. They're a dime a dozen. This one's about a little over 10 inches wide. The thing that really shocked me is the price. It's $2,100. So you're getting 10 inches, 2/8. So let's say round figures, a 10-inch wide planer plus a joiner, and at $2,100. Now I have a 12-inch joiner planer. I bought way back when, and it was about $2,000 when I bought it. Now that same model is about $5,000. So I was like, this is interesting.
Yep.
Interesting.
What gets me, and I wasn't thinking about price, but just looking at it, the in-feed, out-feed of the tool, and I know that
It's short. Yeah,
it's very short, and it's space saving. It's all in its marketing. The planer operation, I get the joiner, and I'm thinking just material that's longer than 3 feet long. You're going to have a lot of setup with rollers or something to support it on the in and out as you're going across this thing, because it doesn't look physically that big.
Yeah. I'd want to see one in person, but
Sure.
I think it's probably going to be okay for most of your furniture type projects.
If you tell me that's similar to the jet, joiner that my dad has, that the supported surface on either side of the blade is 2+ feet, closer to 3 feet plus. If that's true, because this is an industrial machine and it just looks small because we're seeing it all just together, then I'm totally be fine. But I can't really get perspective from that one image that they're sharing on total size. I mean, you can kind of, if that's a 4 or 6 inch dust port.
Yeah. Now,
you get some.
The only thing is, it's not a helical cutter. It is
that's what comes
self-aligning knives, but they do say they're self-aligning. So let's hope that's the case, because when I bought mine only came with knives, and they were a bear to sharpen, but I did upgrade it. They came out with a different model, which actually had the segmented cutter head. And when Jet and Powermatic have their quarterly 10% off sale or 15% off sale, I actually called Woodcraft and go, hey, can I buy a part on this sale? And they went, yes, you can. So I bought the segmented cutter head and switched it out myself, which was easy enough to do. But anyway, but I thought this was pretty interesting, at least for what you're getting at that particular price. If you're paying $2,100 for that's your 8-inch joiner category.
By itself. Yeah. So the multifunction is a great thing. It will be interesting as these kind of make it out in the wild. Even to events, big trade events. Even though this is kind of focused towards hobbyists, but hopefully they show this off so that people get it to see it in the flesh.
Yeah, I mean it now, because the Jet 12-inch I have now, if I were to replace that, like I said, the going rate for that, it's like $5,000, and I think it's only like a couple $100 more to get a Fielder, or Felder, should I say?
Yeah.
So I would get a Felder at that price. But anyway,
all right.
I thought it was kind of interesting.
It is interesting. It's very
cool. And if you have a small shop, it's got a really tiny footprint. It's very compact.
It does.
Oh yeah. If you had a small shop and you wanted a wide planer, this is probably the only game in town at this point.
Yeah. It'd be interesting to see if someone could come up with some kind of setup for those. If you do want the in-feed and out-feed rollers to mimic a larger, larger bed, how could you do that in a way that doesn't get in the way or that easily removes for the planer operation and then is back in the position that you want it to?
Oh yeah, because you
can do that, and some somebody that comes up with a clever solution, that would be pretty cool. So
unless you can tell me, because that's a more European style blade guard on the joiner, right? Just that kind of cover instead of the big,
which I prefer
for sure. I mean, I like that. But again, like and I know that's where the business is done is right there, real close to the blade. Your pressures matter, right there. But I've taken a 6-foot board across a joiner, and I know you need support 3 feet to the right, as you're going through that thing.
Yeah.
So there's something to there, but you're right, Andy. Like the height differences between the two operations of the tool make a complex problem. There's something going on there where it has to be temporary so that the other one is possible,
but also real precise.
Actually, very precise. Exactly. I was thinking like, you could do swing up, but you can't swing down because it'll block, the other. Right.
Yeah. So you'd have to come up with something pretty clever to have the precision when it's in place, but then get it out of the way for the planing. Anyway, we're way on the weeds.
Yeah, that's weird.
Well, no, these are the kind of things when I mentioned when I first met you at the Woodworking America in Kansas City, and you challenged us with that question. These are the type of things you come up with.
Yeah, if it was just a joiner with a short bed, then you just build it into a frame and you fill with shims until you have rollers exactly where you want them, and then you never touch them. Right?
Yeah,
you can't do that. Can't do that
here.
Yeah.
Yeah. But pretty cool. Well, next up, Hans Carlson has a new Scorp out, which is kind of interesting. It's all sold out because one Chris Swartz happened to mention about it.
That happens.
Yeah, it happens. But it is a pretty interesting little Scorp. It's based on a traditional design way back when. It's a one-handled Scorp, and I'll have links to everything we're talking about in the show notes because you actually have to see this thing. But it's pretty interesting. It's kind of a little bit flat in the middle and has some rounds on the end, which is the kind of Scorps I like. I don't like the circular Scorps that much. I like something that's a little flatter, and it's pretty small and looks to be very interesting. And it's $228, which is right in the range of Scorpage, I guess.
Scorpage
of the traditional Scorps out there. So there's a lot of places you can buy these, but this looks to be pretty cool. Is
it one hand operation or two? I think it offers both.
It offers both. Okay. I would use it two-handed, but
like two narrow-handed. Yeah, like your knuckles are going to be real close to each other. But
I think your thumbs would be close to each other.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, because you're on top. I'm thinking underneath.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but it looks like a great chair making tool. So I don't know. What do you think, Brian?
Yeah, I'm just I'm looking at the sweep. Is it ergonomic? I mean, I've never used. Usually the handles are a little farther apart. So maybe it's. I don't know if it's more of a fine touch, like a Claire Minahan kind of thingy. But it's not. I don't know. Hopefully somebody has one, then get a chance to grab this.
Yeah. Chris was using one. He seemed to like it. He seemed to prefer it over the traditional Scorp as far as being able to make those channels. He kind of saddles his chairs a little bit differently than your typical Windsor chair. So it seemed to work fine on his, stick chairs that he builds. Yeah. So because he makes furrows and then caps them off. It's similar to what we do on Windsors, but not quite the same.
Yeah. I mean, it looks like you could, if you really wanted to go at it, you could hog out quite a bit of material with this thing, I think.
Yeah.
In pretty short order. So
yeah.
It's definitely a unique design. I don't think I've seen.
I haven't seen that design either until I looked into it. And apparently, it's traditional, and that part of Scandinavia world.
Yeah, you just lean it to the left or lean it to the right to get a little deeper and flatter in the middle.
Yeah,
interesting. Very cool.
All right. Well, before we get into 5 questions, let's give our patrons just a shout out. So who do we have to thank this week?
We'd like to give that big shout out to our Patreon supporters. Today, we're going to give that shout out to our friend Rex Hansen. Rex, thank you for your support, sir. We like having you on the show. Love talking to you, and we love that you help us out as well. If you would like to join Rex in support of the MWA podcast, you can go to patreon.com/MWA podcast and bring us there.
Yes, and thanks so much, Rex. And Rex is also a great suggester of guests. So we've had a number of guests on that he's suggested, and we have some more coming up. So thank you so much, Rex, for all your support. With that, let's get into 5 questions. So, Andy, what is your favorite tool? And as always, our limit is 23.
The limit is 23.
Yes.
I can only have 23 favorite tools.
Exactly.
We've had people get close.
Well, I'm gonna say bandsaw. My favorite tool is the bandsaw.
Okay.
No other tool felt like such an unlock when I added it as the bandsaw. It just felt like once I had that, I could do so many more things. It's the tool I probably take the most pride in having set up really, really well. There's no other tool that I make a dedicated TikTok or Instagram video about, using really well and cut, doing a tight cut on a curve. I don't think anything comes close. The bandsaw is my favorite.
Awesome. I know it is a tool replacement tool. You cannot have a table saw if you have a bandsaw. You can, there's ways of operating largely with that as like the major workhorse of your shop.
Yeah, I mean, I can. It's really been my workaround the joiner. I can cut a cut coming off my bandsaw. I'm comfortable putting against the fence on my table saw, and if you can do that, then what do you need a joiner for? For edge joining. That's the reason why I haven't replaced the 6-inch one that I ditched in the move to Denver. So, yep. So the final answer, bandsaw.
Cool. Awesome. So what bandsaw are you rocking in your shop?
I've got a 14-inch Grizzly. It's one of the ones they have lots of different models that they kind of cycle through. They discontinued this one a while back. It's either a 2-horse or a horse and a half. I guess I can't remember, but in that ballpark. Power wise, it's got like 11 inches of resaw. I keep a pretty like a 3/16 inch blade on it, and that still does well if I need to resaw something. So I very rarely change the blades anymore. I just kind of have that blade dialed in, and maybe if I was going to do a lot of resawing, I'd swap a blade, but I usually just keep that one on.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I rip all thick stock on the bandsaw.
Yeah,
don't even look at the table saw. Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. Yeah.
Yep.
So next question then, who has influenced you the most?
So I'm gonna. There's a whole. This one's tougher. This one's tougher to narrow down. And I probably should mention quite a few runners up on this one, but I'm going to say Mark Spignall. His videos and content and through the Wood Whisperer, the Guild, were really pivotal early on. And I found a lot of, he's the one that led me to David Marks, and I bought a lot of those DVDs, and that thought process influenced me further early on, and then he became a friend and a business partner, and I got to see just kind of how he makes decisions around the customer experience on the website, and his thinking on those things was quite influential on me. I will say I'm not nearly as good at setting things up to be user friendly as he is, but just listening to how he thinks about, should I make a YouTube short because it's going to be in my list of videos, and is it going to make sense to somebody searching through things? Do I like how YouTube's doing this? Should I participate yet? Like, he puts a lot of thought into those kinds of questions that probably a lot of people don't. They're affected by it if they consume what he's putting out there, but don't hear him talk about so much. But just all around in a lot of different ways, Mark has been a big influence.
Awesome. I couldn't agree more. Yeah, I got into woodworking about a year before he really made the scene. And when he did, I went, oh, I've made so many mistakes in my tool.
Yeah.
And in fact, I bought my first iPod just so I could listen to the first Wood Talk with him and Vanderlist on. Yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
Router bit of the month.
Wow. No, I remember seeing him in a in a Popwood magazine. I think I remember distinctly, like, we were riding up to Easter with my family, and I was reading a magazine in the back seat, and he had some article about cutting board, and that was my exposure to Mark. I mean, we're talking like 2005, 2006, like back in the day. Yeah, so cool.
Yep. And just like Mark, I built my 5 cutting boards, and I've never made another one since.
I've made 4, and
but I still have friends that I've given those to, and like, we will never use this. This is like a
I have my wife's grandmother and her mother both have one, and they are leaned up on a back of a counter as just decoration.
Wow.
Perfect.
Perfect. I won't have to make you another one.
Never ever.
Exactly.
All right, Andy. Our next question: what is your white whale, or in other words, what is the one thing you always wanted to build but have not yet?
So, kind of 2 answers on this one that occurred to me. The first was a chair. I've never made a chair.
Oh, we can help you out with that.
Yeah, I'm sure you can. So doing a chair, here's what I struggle with when it comes to a chair. Like, there's so many constraints. Like, compared to a coffee table, there's almost no constraints. Like, you need a flat surface on the top. You're free to do things in a lot of different ways. It's very easy to make it strong enough. It can be heavy, light. You're almost entirely unconstrained except for the top flat surface. The chair, just the dimensions and that you need for the comfort of the person really pin you down. It can't be too heavy. It just there's a ton of constraints, and I don't think you can build a chair without understanding the conventional wisdom really well. I don't think it would be a wise thing to do. You might be able to do that with just about anything else. I think you can riff more, go off first principles and design something. I don't feel like you can do that with a chair, and that's a less comfortable way of working for me, but it's still something that I'd really like to do for the challenge. So that's my story on chairs. I don't know how that.
Well, I would recommend, depending on what type of chair you like, but we're partial to Windsors and around here. But yeah, take a class, build one. The thing is once you go down the dark side of chair making,
and never coming back.
You never come back, because I've made a bunch of different chairs, and if I'm half drunk late at night, I will jump from chair to chair going, well, what makes this one more comfy than that one?
I can see that.
Yes. So you can go down a whole rabbit hole as far as going, okay, I'm going to design my next chair. Okay, I'm going to make the tilt a little bit more, a little bit less, and all these kind of rake and splay angles of the legs, and how much the back leans back or not, or all that kind of stuff. So
and what's great about a chair, though, Andy, is if you screw up something, just purposely screw it up on the other side too, so it's symmetrical. So there's this thing called Chair Maker's Perfect, which is like, or if you like your spindles and your and arm posts, if they're all a little wonky looking, you just put the kind of same wonky looking as so as you're panning left to right, it's a gradual change. So they're very forgiving, believe it or not.
Yeah. See, Brian's sitting in his, and you can't see mine, but I got a boom back here that I'm sitting in. So anyway, they're very comfy.
As you're starting down the chair making venture and you're iterating differences, I'd like you to look to BB Custom Tools, to your jig making solutions, or your drilling solutions for all those complicated angles.
I'm open for barter.
Right on.
I've done that with a number of folks.
I knew it was risky business putting that first one out there.
You gotta know your audience.
And then the second, I think, would be any project for a client that's willing to pay top dollar for a bespoke anything, table, cabinet. I've never done that. I've never found a client, a wealthy individual or wealthy or not, willing to pay what a high-end piece of custom studio furniture should cost. And then on the heels of that, like, the ideal project would be a series of 10 of them, and the ability to sell all of them. I know people do that, right? They come
it does exist.
That's been done. And I've put no effort into trying to make it happen, to be fair. I've been pulled in different directions and then developing tools for woodworkers, but that's definitely a white whale to make an effort like that and have done something that you can really say, all right, you're not just a hobbyist for yourself furniture maker. There's just a different tier working with a high paying client. You know, I follow Blacktail Studio and he does a real nice job mixing those client projects in, and you can see how it influences the way he's thinking about things. Of somebody's paying a lot of money for this. I've got to take care of all these details. And even in the most ambitious things I've done, I've perceived that as something that would have pushed me even further and made the finished product better. So I would like to do that, and maybe Pica screws will be a reason to make that happen in the future. I hope so, but for now, it's a white whale.
Okay. Fair. That's,
well, knowing our listenership, you should be expecting a email any day now.
Any day now, yeah.
You know, if somebody has a client and we could do some kind of collaboration, that would definitely be a valid way to get going in that direction, right? So.
If you need inspiration in that end, I would point you to Craig Thibodeau.
Okay.
He is.
Are you familiar with Craig?
No.
Oh, puzzle box maker to the nines. Awesome, detailed work.
You would dig the stuff that
you would love.
Puzzle boxes was the closest I ever came to this. Actually, the puzzle box I made to launch the Pica screw at the very beginning, I did sell that one. I got $1,500 for it.
Okay, there you go.
No, ain't bad.
You know, I didn't even think about that. He might be a interesting client for you.
Yep.
With those types of screws.
Source some things that would work.
Yeah, because I mean the puzzle boxes he makes, I think they go for about 20 to 40 grand.
What I was saying, like I sold the one I made for $1,500, but then I had a few more people interested. Yeah. And I was saying, like, listen, it'll be $10,000, but I'll make you something incredible. I don't know what it will be, but I'll make it. Yep. And I was close to making that sale. That would have checked the box on this, but it kind of fell through. Yeah. So that was the closest I'd ever come. I guess I kind of forgotten about that puzzle box effort, but I'll definitely
look him up. Specifically, I know of one that he made for a magician / puzzle guy that's on YouTube.
Yeah.
That you got to see it solved and all the ridiculous detail he puts into it. Fantastic detailed work, and we've interviewed him on our show before. He's a super cool guy.
Yeah. He has a couple of books out and stuff like that. He's does a lot of veneer work and stuff like that.
So and that helps with those kind of endeavors.
Sure.
So cool. So what is your number one tip for fellow woodworkers?
So it kind of goes along with the last answer, but I'd say if you haven't done so, find a reason to build a lot of something, like 10 or more. And this is a tip that I first heard in a class from Seth Rowland. Do you know who Seth Rowland is?
No.
This is Seth Rowland Furniture.
Wow.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Now that you show me that, yes, I know.
Yeah. Okay. So again, profoundly unhelpful for the audience, but you can Seth Rowland. Anyway, he made that comment. He said all of the people he most admired as furniture makers and designers spent time doing like some kind of production work. And I actually did a video on this topic where I, for the first time, did a series. Like I just kind of forced it. Like I'm making 10 of these boxes just because Seth told me to, and I'm exploring why did he make this recommendation? And very quickly it changes the way you do things, because the cost of mistakes is so much higher. If you're going to make it 10 times, thinking more about the sequence, pre-finishing, the gluing, the cleanup, the jigs, everything has higher stakes, and therefore you pay attention to it, and you can't almost help but upping your game because it's so painful to make the mistakes. So that's my recommendation. If you haven't done so, pick something and build a lot. Find a reason to do that.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's a really good thing, and it's something I think Kyle, Andy, both you've done now production, and you're constantly refining the process because you're finding ways to improve it, because you're like something is bothering you, or you just notice that this could be tweaked in some way that makes it easier, simpler, cleaner, something. That's what that's all about.
For sure.
I forget who it was years ago, but it was they were making some big old cabinet all dovetailed, and it had hundreds of dovetails. Like you start rough, but boy, by the end, those are precise, because you can't help but get better. You really can't, by repetition.
That's true.
Unless you're not paying attention, but you should be. I used to tell my kids when they were practicing, I'm like, practice with purpose.
That's right.
Small targets, like those matter.
Absolutely.
Awesome. All right, Andy, your fifth question. What is your go-to finish?
I'm the world's laziest finisher.
Excellent.
Just satin polyurethane, whatever brand I have on the shelf, usually Minwax. What's the fancier one that Woodcraft carries, or that you'll find in Woodcraft and Rockler?
Oh, General Finishes, yeah.
General Finishes,
yeah.
I can't tell the difference. I don't know. I've done the thing where you thin it out and add linseed oil. I can't perceive that much of a difference. So just polyurethane, one coat and move on. I'm not saying that's good. That's not good. I should be better. And in fact, this slab that I put a lot of effort into, I did Rubio monocoat finished by the Blacktail Studio Nano Finish, and it is seriously cool.
So you notice that?
No. Now, what is that? The Blacktail Nano Finish? Is that like a ceramic coating or something?
I don't know if it's ceramic. It's some kind of special magic finish that Cam. He's approached by lots of folks, and this was one of the very few that he went with because he was so impressed with the waterproofing, liquid proofing properties of it. What it is, I can't tell you. The effect of it is that after you apply it, it still feels exactly the same, like the wood texture and grain, but liquids beat up on it and just wipe off.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. So, the Rubio itself, I really liked, and the finish, the nano finish was great. So if it really matters, I've got that in my pocket now.
There you go.
But I think for the most part, I'm going to be a lazy finisher until I get that big client project, right? And that forces.
Exactly. Then you're, you got the whole conversion varnish, HVLP setup, spray booth. Yes.
All of it.
Exactly.
Another comment by this. So this is another comment from that same class with Seth. But he said, like, whatever you design, the shape of it should be interesting if it's just plain gray. Like, think of it, just gray, no grain, nothing, just gray. The shape should be so interesting that it doesn't matter. And I've kind of taken that path, that all of the design effort has been the geometric shape itself and not so much the finishing. But that's
interesting. That's almost architectural because, a lot of the architectural pieces, they want the straightest grain possible. They don't want, they want something that's kind of, has wood grain, but it's all in one particular direction. And not figured at all. Yes. Right.
That's not to say that Seth doesn't work with beautiful woods. Just like, even if he didn't, the shapes he comes up with would be interesting in and of their own.
Yeah, makes sense. Well, with that, Andy, where can folks find you on the interwebs?
So I've got a YouTube channel, Andrew Klein, Klein, and then my Instagram. If you want to find me on Instagram, probably best off just typing in Twin Turbo Vise. That's kind of my flagship product as of right now. And that will lead you to me and customers of mine who have done cooler stuff than what I've done with the Vise. So you might end up following them instead, and that's okay.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Andy, for coming on the show. We really enjoyed it, and it was great. And I can't wait to see what's coming up in the next few months.
Yes, sir.
And that just about wraps it up for this show. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the show on the podcatcher of your choice. Just search for the Modern Woodworkers Association. And while you're there, please leave us a review. You can follow us on Instagram at MWA_podcast. And if you'd like to support the podcast, go over to patreon.com/MWA podcast. But the best thing you can do is tell a friend. Word of mouth goes a long way in sharing our discussion.